For this activity, I'm going to be doing two walkthroughs with my instructional officer. My instructional officer went ahead and printed out a walkthrough form that she uses whenever she does her own walkthroughs. And what it consists of is it includes the name of the teacher that is being observed, the date, the name of the school, as well as the look for. So the look for for these two walkthroughs that I will be doing, um, I'm going to watch out for the tics. If the teacher has the tics up, they could either have it up on their board or they could have it in what we use right now, which is Google Classroom. If the lesson plans are there, that could count as them having the tics. I'm also going to be looking for student engagement, if they engaged actively, if they were compliant or not engaged. Depending on the level of engagement, I will be choosing from the three choices there. I'm also going to be choosing between how the teacher's managing her lesson. Is she sitting, standing, or circling around the room? I'm also going to be looking at some instructional strategies that were observed during these walkthroughs. Like, for example, some options include identifying similarities and differences, homework and practice, small groups, summarizing and note taking, as well as cues, questions, and advanced organizers. The type of questioning, the instructional rigor, Bloom's taxonomy. What rigor was implemented throughout the lesson? Those are some choices that I'm also going to have to select. If they were questions for just remembering, analyzing, understanding, evaluating, applying, or creating, I will be jotting that down. And of course, there has to be scripting going on throughout the walkthrough, which I will be doing as well. At the end of the two walkthroughs, I will be debriefing with my instructional officer and we will be comparing um, what we observed throughout and discussing some tips that she will be giving me also for what she does whenever she does her own walkthroughs.
Jack traded the cow for peas. Jack planted the seeds and watered them. Jack climbed the beanstalk into the cotton. Jack stole the goose that laid golden eggs. The giant chased down Jack and the beanstalk and hurt his foot. The giant became so to Jack and his mother. Jack, his mother, and the goose and the Bella just happened together after. Yeah.
Compare and contrast. Yeah. I was trying to see if everybody was doing that or they're each like. Let me see.
Because golden eggs makes you rich.
This is warming your teeth for you.
Yeah, comes on this.
Brooklyn, what are y'all working on?
Ed.
What are y'all working on?
Ed.
Oh, on Ed? Okay.
And we learned that plants grow, and we did the activity over there.
Oh, cool. Right, awesome. So some of you are watching like science experiments too?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
The giant cake got down on top of it.
Can you read the first word for me?
Jack.
Okay, can you help?
Stone.
Then you can read this one.
The.
Good job. What did he steal? What did he steal from them? The clothes, right? That they golden eggs. What is that?
Oh.
Yes.
So the giant chased down the beast of the if no one is so ready, wait, no. Because look, the giant, they can't just keep it. He stole it.
You're thinking, Christine, you're thinking. I'm just sitting here looking at you all.
Oh yeah, because when he climbed up, he stole it too.
And then,
After that, the giant came down because he stole it. He changed it down, changed Jack because he stole it.
I think that's, does that make sense? Does that make sense for you? And then we do it, like, you have to go back and you have to read, and you have to think about the sequence of the story. Right? Can you do that? Can you do that? Okay. Can I have the students that will be Mrs. Moyela come to Mrs. Villarreal, please? Adeline. I'm waiting for you, Michael. Michael, just leave it like that because you're going to go back to continue working on it. It's just going to be a couple of minutes. Is there a chair for you? Okay, can you look at the picture? You don't have to use fairy tale and Jackie and Beanstalk and Jackie and the Beanstalk, right? Okay. And so we're going to focus on Jackie and the Beanstalk. And the story of the fairy tale, we're doing the story out of it. So we're gonna take this and we're gonna look at how it happened in the story. Okay? Okay. Can you get one? Ivan? You get one? And get one. Okay. And would you like to be the first one to read it? Okay.
The dream has Jack and the beanstalk, and her came
So he not catch, he chased down. He chased them. Remember when that happened? Okay. Now, can you read yours, Diego?
Jack
Try or trade?
traded
Yeah, read it again.
Jack traded them
Did that happen in the story? Yes, he did, right? Remember can you read it?
Jack gave mother to good and live happily ever after.
Did they live happily ever after? Yes. Right, you gotta can you read yours? Me, living, okay. On your count, okay. These four sentences, all of them happen in the story. Can you put these four sentences in order? Which of these happened first, second, third, fourth? Look at them. You all discuss. See which one do you think is going to be first.
May I ask a question?
Okay.
Okay, he's gonna use those three things. Okay, what is the basketball gonna represent?
Sun.
Sun. Why is that gonna be the sun?
Because it's the biggest one.
Very good, because it's the biggest. All right. So what are you gonna use to represent the Earth?
The soccer ball because it's like medium,
Medium. Okay, and then the moon.
The baseball because it's like super small.
Baseball because it's small. All right. So you're gonna use those things, right?
Yeah.
Now, what are some things that you could improve in your model? Because you have it, right? Look. Let's draw the model. Right here, you have the basketball. Okay? This represents the what?
Sun.
The sun. And then we got our
Earth.
no.
Oh, the soccer ball.
Oh, it's a soccer ball? Okay, something like that. This is your soccer ball and this is the Earth. Then what did we say was the sun?
Baseball.
The moon. This is your baseball. This is the moon. Okay. So you're gonna have them. Let's say you have them here, right? Now you bring it in. You're doing it at home, right? You're telling your parents, "Oh, I'm doing this, mom. Let's get the balls and put them there and the stick." Then you look at it and say, "How can you improve it? How can you make it better? How can you make it to represent the orbiting? Remember, what does the moon, the Earth do for the sun?
Orbit.
They orbit. They rotate right around it. They do an orbit. Very good. And the moon, what does it do to or how does it?
Orbit.
They orbit around the Earth. Okay. So how can you show that? Are you just gonna show the sticks?
No.
How could you improve it?
You need to do something that will make it spin.
Did you
use
hear?
those things, like those thumbtacks to like stick on to each other,
Okay.
and then like through like glue on top of the surface to do that, and then glue some, and then put it through like.
Okay. So maybe use a wire?
Like when we did that little like yarn the wind thing.
Oh yeah, remember the wind vane that we did? Okay, did you see how it spun?
Yeah.
Could you do something like that for this?
Yes.
Yeah, right? Okay, so what else would you do? Okay, maybe maybe use a pencil, okay.
Use
Okay.
like a machine to hold, like use something to hold it. Cause my brother had this like cardboard board, and then like this, and then he like showed like the layers of the earth. Maybe we should do the same thing, but with the sun,
okay.
earth, and moon.
Very good. How many of you know what a lazy Susan is? Okay, it's not a girl that's lazy. It's like a board, a round board, and it has like little gears in the middle and in between, and it moves. It rotates by itself. Okay, you spin it and it spins. How about maybe we use some of that?
Yes.
Spin it around.
We're gonna
Right?
build it.
Yeah, that'll be cool, right? Okay,
Yay! We're gonna actually build it.
so let's review. What acronym do we use to know how to put the planets in order?
Model.
No, yes, but what's the acronym? What do we say? What's the saying?
My very eager mom just served us nachos.
Very good. My very eager mother just served us nachos. Good job.
Nachos.
Yes. What are the first? What are the first 4 planets called?
Mercury, Venus,
Earth,
Mars.
Okay, but what are they called? What are they made of?
Rocks.
Rocks.
That's
They're
right.
the rocky planet. So what are the last 4 planets called?
Gas giants.
Gas giants. Why are they called the gas giants?
Because they're a giant ball of gas.
Very good. Very does the Earth take to rotate around the sun?
1 year. That's the
And how many days?
365.
Very good. How many days does it take the moon to rotate around?
28. Which is a month.
28. Okay, a month. Okay, very good. So it takes about a month to rotate around. Very good. Now, how many seasons do we have on Earth?
4.
How are the seasons come to be?
Winter.
Okay.
Summer.
Okay.
Spring.
Spring.
Fall.
Fall. Okay. But remember, here's the sun. I'm the sun.
Hello.
Here's the moon. Look, I'm gonna get Isaac. I mean the Earth. Isaac's the Earth.
Hi.
Does Isaac rotate around me like this?
No.
What do they do? He
Spin.
spins. So
Every time it spins, it's a day.
every time it spins, it's a day. So the seasons what? It's every time it spins, but he doesn't spin. Does the Earth spin this fast? No, the Earth actually goes like this. You don't even see it.
I said
It goes like this.
you're gonna get spinning.
So every time it spins, thank you, Isaac. Every time the Earth spins, our seasons are changing. The days are either getting colder or getting warmer.
It's changing very slowly.
So what's our next season?
Summer.
We're not really in summer right now, but you can notice that there's cold, but then it's hot. So as the Earth rotates,
It'll change.
yes, it's changing.
temperature. Because like the Earth is hitting the sun.
Very good. That's what I want you to say. Yes.
This is cold.
The Earth, our country right now, it's facing more towards the sun.
That's why it's been getting hotter.
That's why it's getting hotter. Very good. So right now, on the other side of the world, which is what?
Night
China, Japan.
And it's like really cold.
So now they're getting their what?
Winter.
Their winter. So when it's day here, over there is what? Nighttime. When it's nighttime there, what's over here? Day. Good job, guys. Awesome. All right. Now you need to do a practice. I know you're enjoying our discussion.
Yay.
Okay. So this one, you're going to ask your questions on how the Earth and the Sun and the Moon rotate around each other. Okay. All right. Max, turn on the light, please.
Is it just one?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. 146.
It's 146.
Wait.
Teacher,
Yes.
Mark is wrong because it said 145. No, you're right.
Okay. We're doing it. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. There you go, Sophia.
Our name?
Yes. Write your name, please. If you need help, please let me know. Don't rush through it, guys. Make sure you read it carefully.
This is what you're talking about.
Yes. Oh, don't worry. That's just put your answer, but that's fine. That's good. Boys, concentrate on your work. Look at all the drawings very carefully.
Ms. Macias?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, did you see her objectives?
Uh,
She usually has them for her sciences.
yes. I was looking around, but I didn't see them.
So I went into her Google Classroom and she has the
Okay.
lesson plan.
Okay.
So
So yes.
I give her credit.
Okay.
Engagement level. What do you have?
I put that they were
Engaged.
participating. Yes.
And then I had standing, but she did start circulating
Yes.
around.
So
So we give her.
I put circulating around also.
Okay. Then for strategies, what did you check off?
I put setting objectives and providing feedback because they were about to get ready to. I'm assuming they're going to do that project at home. So she was telling them what the look fors are, like what she wants to see out of the model, and also giving them feedback, as in saying, how can we make it better? Like how can we make it look like it's orbiting? And then one of the little students mentioned the wire and like certain ideas.
Okay. On there, I checked off other, and I just added real world connections. So whenever you check off other, it gives you the option to add.
Okay, I was about to ask when it's other, do you just add?
So I added real world
Okay.
connections because she did like a minor demonstration
Yes, using herself
one
and then the student.
So I checked that off. Most of her questioning was recall, and then the worksheet was apply. But the kids were not explaining. They were not, they had some ideas, but most of her questioning was review. Like, it was
Yes.
a quick,
And then they were answering.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they knew what was being taught. You could tell it wasn't the first day. Their worksheet was a post assessment. So I would assume they've been working on it for at least.
Yes, it was a
Couple
like a
days.
progress monitoring
Yeah.
sort.
And then on the
Assessment.
back, it's on the last page. It said post assessment. So
Oh, okay.
I did put apply because the worksheet was at the higher end. Now on my scripting, what do you have on questioning?
I put the analyze drawing connections because I saw that the questioning had to do with making relationships between like the earth, the sun, and the moon. So I'm thinking that the kids have to make that
Analysis.
connection in order to be able to figure out the answers.
Okay. And then on the scripting, what do you have?
I put the teachers discussing how to do a model of the earth and moon. Teacher asked, what did we say was the baseball when going over the model? And the students responded the moon. And the teacher asked what the students could do to improve their model. And the students didn't have to have critical thinking. One student comes up with using a wire to show how it's orbiting. And after discussion, teacher reviews by saying, what are the first 4 planets called? And then she rewards it by saying, what are they made of? And the students then reply, rocks. Teacher uses herself and student as a model to provide a visual for students, and then are giving a progress monitoring assessment about the topics discussed involving the relationships between earth, sun, and moon.
I did catch that where she rephrased her question because
Yes.
she said, what are they called? And then what are they, and they said what they're called, but then no,
Yes.
what are they made of? And they were able to say rock. I have where she starts talking, what would you use to represent the sun, the basketball? What does the sun do to the earth? It orbits. How could you show that? Then how could we improve it? I wasn't quite sure what that question was. It was just kind of like adding more details to what they were already talking
Mhm.
about. Um, you need to do something that'll make it spin. Then they start talking about, well, we can use that thing, and that thing was the wind vane that they had. So that tells me that they have prior knowledge of constructing some sort of wind vane that demonstrated the same orbiting feature, I guess, that they were studying. Um, we could use that to make it spin. Then she went in and explained or asked them if they knew what a lazy Susan was. Um, so again, bringing the real world into
Mhm. Incorporating it.
the lesson. Then they went into the review. They talked about the acronym. All of that was recalling information. For the demonstration part, I did say teacher used the student to demonstrate the sun rotating.
Mhm.
Good job making the abstract content more concrete so students are able to grasp complex concepts. Students were then prompted to work on a progress monitoring assessment. And then here she said, if you have any questions, please raise your hand. Let me know if you need help. So that is a caution a lot of times because
Okay.
kids that need help are not the ones that are going to raise their hand and ask for
Mhm.
help. Some will,
Yes.
most won't.
For the most part, they would just sit there and hope that you notice that they need help.
Yes.
Okay.
So if it wasn't, since it's not an assessment, it was a monitoring tool. To me, it was just like classwork.
Mhm.
Um, maybe that's golden time to pull the ones you know are going to struggle
Okay.
instead
Yes.
of asking them to tell you when they need help. You know, of course, when it's an assessment, well then you're,
Just on their own.
yeah,
Right. In this case.
yeah. So one other thing I noticed, or tell me what you noticed about uh, engagement.
Um. Well, I did see. Well, it was more of like the students in the front, especially that one student answering, and the students over here on this side on the right, and on the back where I was, they weren't really not responding.
Yeah.
As much.
Yeah, I noticed that too. The ones that were in the back that you're saying were not responding. At times, whenever she would ask something, they would like make the motion, and so I knew that they were thinking about the
Mhm.
word rotation or whatnot. But the students in the front dominated
Yes.
conversation.
For sure.
So one thing we could do, kind of like with the other teacher that we visited with Mr. Cruz, where you know, what are your strategies for others to be able
Mhm.
to
To be able to answer, not just the
so that they don't
certain
dominate.
few. Mhm.
Yeah. So I'm gonna add a little,
Recommendation.
yeah, uh, or a reflection, and I always try to make it like positive,
Mhm.
and then like a positive thing, like your students are very eager to answer, reflect. What are some ways that we can
Okay.
encourage others?
Mhm.
Because I never want to be like,
But
you
what-
need to.
Yes,
do
it's like
this,
when you
do it,
speak to the
know?
parents, you have to go
Of
in with
course.
a positive note, and then
Yeah.
go in with what
Yes.
they're struggling with.
Yes.
Mhm.
So. Okay, so I just added reflection. Your students are so eager to answer and participate in class discussions. What are some strategies you can use so that hesitant students are able to answer? Great job with lesson delivery. Like I always want to
Mhm.
have them reflect on this because I think it could, be better. But you want to boost them and say,
Yes.
this is the good that I saw. How can it be better? Like they're eager,
Mhm.
but how can we get everyone to be that eager, or
Yes.
what can you do as a teacher to make sure that that student that's hesitant feels comfortable
Mhm.
with not the same one dominating.
Yes, and they probably already assume, okay, he's gonna answer, so I'm just
Yeah.
gonna sit back.
Yeah.
And just not say anything.
Right. So, I think that's all I have. And then I put science. 1:48. I know it's a little bit longer. I usually like to submit right
Mhm.
before I leave, but I wanted to kind of share that. So, all right. Do we have time to look over the next one?
Miss, well, I think the kids are back. It's like 2 already. So I just heard them like pass by.
Okay. For Mrs. Villarreal. Let me get to. Okay. You want to share first or not?
Okay, so
I guess we can share the notes first.
the notes. Okay. So I put down that the students were working on ed, while other students were working in small groups with the teacher. From what I was able to hear from Ms. Villarreal, she was mentioning how they're going to eventually be comparing stories. One of the stories that they've read is Jackie and the Beanstalk. Students were taking turns reading and putting the story in order in this particular time. I didn't see them comparing yet, but they were taking turns putting the story in order.
Yeah.
The rest of the students were reading and watching. Some of them were reading, and then some of them were watching science experiments. And the reason being, I asked one of the kids, and they said that they've learned about plants, so that she allowed them to also be watching science experiments about that. Teacher allowed for students to process their thinking. I overheard her say, I'm just going to be watching here, and I'm just going to watch you all, go like to see what y'all come up with. And that allowed them to process their thinking and develop their ideas on their own. Towards the end, she asked, does that make sense? Students replied with yes. And then students quickly were able to change from small group setting to working independently on ed.
Yeah, I noticed that too, that she was doing like sequencing at the table, but mentioned, I deleted it up here because at first she said
They were going to compare Jackie. That's why I have it here on the top.
Yeah.
And then I realized that once they were doing their small group, they were actually just ordering, sequencing.
So then I changed the topic or the subject to English language arts because then I noticed that it was kind of like a spiral review. Some of the kids were on Ed Helper. Some of the kids were looking at power words. One thing here, most of the things that we have are very similar. How would you put these in order when she's working small group? And then the students, I think this one goes here, and then they were able to justify Jack climbed because students worked independently. One of her groups that she had, and this comes with visiting the class often and knowing, student populations, but one of her groups was 2 high students and 1 low.
Okay.
And the low student is a non-reader. And so the high students were reading, and the low student, was kind of, or the student that struggles, I shouldn't say low student, but the student that struggles with reading was kind of just like mimicking what the other two were doing. I'm sure that she probably worked with him on intervention, but that was more like of a guided reading kind of activity. No guided reader, but she was focusing on the same skill as opposed to intervention when you're focusing on a particular skill that group of students lacks. So I did notice that group was kind of mixed. So on this part here, like I'm kind of jumping all over, but I did check off reinforcing effort and providing recognition, homework and practice, small group, and then I did check off differentiated instruction because of that one student that she was allowing to feel successful because he was basically,
he was a part of that group and just mimicking.
When I went up to a student to ask what it was that they were learning, sometimes when I ask, what are you doing? They'll just say Ed Helper or, I'm doing science. But usually when I ask, what is it that you're learning? They're able to provide a little more or not, right? Depending on
if they know what's happening.
Yeah. So when asked, what are you learning? The student said, I'm working on power words. And then the student pointed to the word or the picture cards that were displayed on the wall as a reference. So the word the teacher had assigned on Ed Helper, the power words, is that on Ed Helper? I think
And
that's
it's HMH,
right,
and
on
HMH is
HMH.
Ed.
Yeah. But I didn't know if it was like a separate, I wasn't sure. I couldn't tell if that was Ed Helper HMH or if it was another site.
Mhm.
But it had to have been because the words were displayed and they were the HMH
Yes.
cards. So I put here a way to provide students with points of reference as they work independently. This allows time for uninterrupted intervention. Students return from intervention with instructional aid. So I did notice that whenever they returned from Miss Moyeda, then a couple of minutes later after the teacher finished with the group she was working with, she then pulled that same group that was with Miss Moyeda for either guided reading or more intervention. I wasn't sure because we didn't stay for that. But I just put great job planning for meaningful instruction. And so in this classroom, we didn't see the teacher talking or questioning a lot, but we still saw learning happen.
Yes.
So that was a good one to go to because, you know, we can't. It's not that we're not giving the teacher credit because a lot of times when it's that the teacher's not talking but the students are still learning, that's even better, right?
Yes, because it's
Because
supposed to
we
be more
want
student led than teacher.
Exactly. Yeah. And here, I didn't see the TEKS posted, but I did go into her planning and
And she had them.
yeah. Did you see them?
No, I didn't see them either.
Yeah.
So I was looking around to see, but I only saw like the Jack and the Beanstalk and the power words and all that, but I didn't see the text.
The actual. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I mean, let's be real. What do the TEKS mean to the kids? It's more of them being able to understand, okay, today we're going to be learning about putting things in order. They don't necessarily need to know that it's sequence of events.
Yes.
You know? But so I think to me what's more meaningful is if the student's able to communicate, this is what we're learning.
Were they able to answer?
Yeah.
Yes, the little girl that I asked, she kept going on, and we're also learning about this. And then if you look over there, we have the words, and then she kept on going and going. And I was like, that's good because they know where everything is, and if they need to reference something, they know it's like the poster back here, etc.
Yes.
So that was good.
Yes. And then I checked apply. What do you have?
I put it's because I was in between because I wasn't sure. So I put like remember, recall, and basic facts. For apply, what does that entail? Like use information in new situations.
Yeah. So application. So when they're, let's say that the teacher has taught something. In this case, it was sequence. Right? Or putting the cards in order depending on how the story is told. Right. So she mentioned that they had already read the story and now they were looking at the cards and manipulating the cards to provide the sequence,
so
right?
That in itself is a new way of like applying
the skill.
The skill, okay.
Yeah. So it's application of the skill, and mostly that's very common in a classroom. Of course, we want to get to these. We're not always going to see these. These are more complex. We saw it in the 6th grade classroom where they were having to. Yes, and she's always at the higher end. And I've had, I was like thinking like, yeah, and we've had conversations because sometimes, yes, it's great to be there, but you've got to be able.
The kids might need a different.
Yes, which the follow-up questions then are super important because if you're here and they're here and you're not helping them get here, then your question is awesome, but what good is it if they're not
they don't
able
know
to
what you're saying, so
what you're asking, right? So it's kind of in the middle, right? But we do have to shoot for eventually getting there. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's important to kind of keep a balance of different kinds of questions. It's trouble when you're just here, because then your assessment, and the prerequisite skill for the next grade level is here,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where, the gap starts
Okay.
getting wider and wider. So this piece is really important, and questioning is something that we can never neglect, because that's basically, you can have awesome lesson delivery, but if your questions are here all the time, then your lesson really,
It's just
all
about
that planning
mhm.
was,
It's just about recalling and what do you remember from last week or yesterday or
Yeah.
etc. Okay.
so it's important to make sure that we vary the questioning strategies so that we can get them thinking harder.
Okay.
That's our goal.
Yes.
So I'll be right with you,
That's
Mrs.
okay, that's
Glamay. So that was Mrs.
I think
Villarreal.
that was it, right? From
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So after debriefing with my instructional officer on these two walkthroughs, it was interesting to see the different ways that teachers deliver their own lessons, because everyone has their own unique way of delivering what they want to say and how they want to teach it. It was also very helpful to be able to have the walkthrough form that my instructional officer provided me with, because I was able to have the look fors in just one form. Um, I was able to see if they were circling around, the way they were delivering the lesson, the type of rigor questions they were asking, on what level they were asking their questions, and what instructional strategies they might have used. Um, some of the things that I could improve on um, were, whenever I do a walkthrough, I need to watch out for their type of questioning more. Pay more close attention to that, to be able to fully be able to acknowledge if the teacher is asking just questions of recalling or basic concepts, or if they're already up there where they're creating and producing and allowing their kids to produce something new. um, because eventually what we want is for teachers to progress from just concepts of recalling to being able to produce something on their own. So that's something that I need to make sure that I look out for as I do walkthroughs in the future going forward. And another thing is I need to make sure to add reflective feedback. Whenever I'm done doing a walkthrough, it's important to have a positive note and a reflective feedback, following that, to make sure that the teachers know that um, this is something that is going to help them, and for them to be able to think about maybe something that they could do better in the future, or the next time that the walkthrough gets done, something to look out for. Improvements, I would say that definitely the questioning and adding the reflective feedback and adding positive notes is also very helpful whenever I'm doing the scripting. Making sure that teachers, whenever they're lacking in a certain area, I conference with them. It's something that I think I'm also going to need to work on, since I've never really done that. And those are some things that I would take with me going on forward.